hedges, and I'm like, the hedges always smell like something decomposing, but there was always a smell. There was always a smell.
It started like a scene from a crime thriller. Tesla abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, ignored for days. But when police finally forced it open, what they discovered inside was beyond imagination. That car wasn't tied to a criminal mastermind or a street gang. It was registered to a 20-year-old singer who went viral on TikTok with his breakout hit Romantic Homicide. His name, D4VD. And in an instant, the rising star who built his career off heartbreak ballads found himself at the center of a story darker than any song he's ever written. The Discovery neighbors first noticed it before the police ever arrived. A sleek Tesla parked on a quiet street in the Hollywood Hills, just sitting there, day after day. At first, it blended into the background. This is Los Angeles, after all, where luxury cars are as common as palm trees. But then came the smell. Residents began complaining about a foul odor seeping from the vehicle, the kind of odor you can't ignore, the kind that makes your stomach turn. Calls were made. Eventually, the LAPD arrived to investigate. At around 12:30 p.m. that Monday, officers opened the Tesla's front trunk. The frunk, what they found inside was horrifying, a body stuffed into a bag, already in a state of decomposition. But the shock didn't end there. When police ran the plates and checked the registration, the car didn't belong to some nameless stranger. It belonged to David Burke, better known to millions of fans as D4VD. The discovery set off instant chaos online. A young singer, just 20 years old, suddenly linked to a crime scene in one of LA's wealthiest neighborhoods. Fans, media outlets, and critics alike asked the same burning question: how did his name end up here? And that was just the beginning, because the details only grew darker with each update. Who is D4VD? Before this story broke, most people knew D4D for one thing: his music. Born David Burke, the Houston native was just another teenager making songs in his bedroom until 2022, when one track changed everything. That track was Romantic Homicide, a moody, melancholic anthem that spread like wildfire across TikTok, soundtracking breakups, late-night edits, and millions of posts from people who felt like the song was written for them. Within weeks, he had gone from unknown to signed, from uploading demos online to performing on real stages. At only 20 years old, D4VD carved out a space that didn't fit neatly into one genre. He wasn't a street rapper, he wasn't a pop star. He built his own lane somewhere in between. Indie, alternative, R&B, a sound that felt raw and personal. And that's what makes this story so surreal. D4VD doesn't have a record of violence. He doesn't have a tough guy image. His brand has always been the opposite: quiet, emotional, and reserved. In fact, for many fans, his appeal was that he seemed almost normal. A kid who got lucky, turned heartbreak into music, and suddenly had the world's attention, which is why the headlines hit so hard. Because overnight, his name was dragged out of playlists and music blogs and dropped into police reports and crime coverage. And just when people thought the shock couldn't get worse, investigators released chilling new details about the victim. When police first released details about the victim, the picture was chilling. She was a woman, small in stature, just about 5'2", weighing only 71 pounds. Severely underweight, her long, wavy black hair framed a fragile body dressed in a tube top, black leggings, and simple stud earrings. On her wrist was a yellow bracelet. But what investigators noted most was the tattoo on her right index finger. 2 simple letters that read, "Shh." The body was already in a state of decomposition, suggesting she had been inside the Tesla for days before anyone realized. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Who was she? How did she end up there? And what connection, if any, did she have to D4VD? Authorities have not released her name, fueling even more speculation online. Some theorized she might have been homeless or vulnerable. Others pointed toward addiction or exploitation. But without a clear identity, the public was left guessing. What couldn't be ignored, though, was the tragedy of it all. A young woman's life cut short, hidden inside a car tied to a rising music star. And for D4VD, whether he was involved or not, the consequences of that connection were about to hit almost instantly. The brand fallout. For D4VD, the fallout came fast, faster than most people could even process the news. Just days earlier, he was front and center on Hollister's website, modeling their new collaboration with Crocs. Hoodies, sweats, sneakers. His face was everywhere in the campaign. It was a major look for a 20-year-old still carving out his lane in the industry. But the second the Tesla story made headlines, Hollister didn't wait. His image was scrubbed from the site almost overnight. No statement, no explanation. It's just gone. One day, he was the face of their campaign, and the next, it was like he had never been there at all. And that's the brutal reality of the music business in 2025. For artists, brand deals are everything. But they don't just bring money, they bring legitimacy. But for corporations, it's never about loyalty. It's about optics. The second your name trends for the wrong reason, you're radioactive. This wasn't about guilt or innocence. It wasn't about facts. It was about protecting the brand's image. And in the world of big business, perception is reality. For D4VD, the public backlash wasn't even fully formed yet, but the industry had already moved on, and while brands were pulling away, police were moving closer, directly into D4VD's world. Police response and David's side. According to reports, the LAPD didn't just stumble onto D4VD's name, they picked up the phone and called him directly. Imagine being 20 years old in the middle of a tour and receiving a call that says, "Your Tesla is sitting in an impound lot with a body inside." Sources close to D4VD say he was blindsided. He claimed to have no idea the car was even connected to something like this. Investigators have confirmed that he's cooperating fully, speaking with police, and providing any information they've asked for. And yet, even with his name swirling in the middle of a nightmare, D4D never stopped moving. He hit the stage in Minneapolis just hours after the discovery made headlines. On stage, the music didn't stop, but off stage, the chaos was only growing louder. For some fans, that was proof he had nothing to hide. If he was guilty, they argued, would he really still be out here performing? For others, it felt surreal, like watching an artist carry on with the show while his name was tied to one of the darkest scandals in recent memory. Just when people thought the situation couldn't get any stranger, another body was found. The second body and internet conspiracies. As if one discovery wasn't disturbing enough, the very next day, police found another body in South Los Angeles. Investigators quickly stated there was no evidence connecting the two cases, but the timing was too much for the internet to ignore. And that's when conspiracy theories exploded on TikTok, Reddit, and Twitter. Users started piecing together their own storylines. Some claimed D4VD was living a double life, a quiet singer by day and something far darker by night. Others dug through his lyrics, convinced that hidden meanings in songs like Romantic Homicide were coded confessions. Memes spread, painting him as a real-life Dexter, while others accused the media of trying to set him up. But the most common theory, that his Tesla was stolen. In Los Angeles, car theft isn't rare, it's practically expected. The city has one of the highest rates of luxury car thefts in the country, and Teslas are a prime target. To many, this felt like the only logical explanation. His car was taken, used in a crime, and then dumped in the hills where it sat until police discovered what was inside. The problem is, once a name is tied to a crime scene, facts don't matter as much as perception. Online speculation always travels faster than official reports, and with every hour that passed, D4VD's name was being reshaped by theories, rumors, and accusations that blurred the line between reality and imagination. But beneath all the noise, one question kept echoing. If D4VD wasn't involved, then what really happened? What might have really happened? Strip away the noise for a moment, and the pieces start to look different. Anyone who's spent time in Los Angeles knows one thing. Car break-ins are almost guaranteed. Broken glass on sidewalks, Teslas lifted off streets, vehicles stripped or dumped blocks away. In LA, it isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when That's why so many believe the most realistic explanation is that D4VD's Tesla was stolen or loaned out, and whoever had access to it became entangled in something far darker, a crime that ended with a young woman losing her life and being left inside that car. If that's the case, then D4VD himself may simply be guilty of bad luck, wrong place, wrong time, wrong car. A rising star pulled into a nightmare just because his name was on the registration papers. Still, the lack of clear answers keeps the speculation alive. Every day without a public statement, every rumor without clarification fuels more theories. And while fans argue over innocence and guilt, the reality is simple. Until investigators finish their work, no one truly knows what happened. But while detectives sort through the facts, the bigger story has already taken shape. Because this case isn't just about one car or one artist, it points to something much larger, something that cuts across music, fame, and society itself. The bigger picture, violence and public image. This story is bigger than D4VD, bigger than a Tesla in an impound lot. At its core, it's a reminder of how fragile fame really is, Beats, and how quickly public perception can shift. One day, you're fronting a clothing campaign. The next, your name is tangled in police reports and crime blogs, guilty or not. It also exposes something harsher, the way corporations move. Hollister didn't wait for facts, for evidence, for justice. They erased him overnight, not because they knew he was guilty, but because risk is all that matters in business. To them, image is currency, and when your image gets questioned, your value drops to zero. But beyond the optics, there's a human cost. A young woman lost her life, her body left hidden in a car, reduced to a headline. We may not know her name yet, but she deserves to be more than a footnote in a scandal. Her death is a reminder of a larger ongoing issue, violence against women. It happens every single day, often in silence, and cases like this only scrape the surface of a much deeper crisis. And then there's the role of the internet. Speculation, conspiracies, TikTok edits dissecting lyrics, all of it spreads faster than truth. In 2025, it's not about waiting for the investigation. It's about who can post first, who can frame the narrative, and who can turn tragedy into clicks. For D4VD, this moment will define the next chapter of his career. If he's innocent, he'll have to fight harder than ever to clear his name. If he's not, the consequences will be catastrophic. Either way, his story shows just how thin the line is between a rising star and a falling one. Thought-provoking close. So here's the question that lingers long after the headlines fade. Was this all just a tragic coincidence, a stolen car that dragged an innocent artist into a nightmare? Or is there more to this story than anyone is ready to admit? Right now, the truth is locked inside an investigation, but in the court of public opinion, people don't wait for answers. They speculate, they argue, they decide for themselves. And for D4VD, every passing day without clarity is another day his name hangs in the balance. What we do know is this: a young woman lost her life. A young artist's career hangs by a thread. And the internet is shaping a narrative faster than the facts can catch up. So what do you think really happened? Was D4VD simply unlucky? Or is there a darker truth waiting to be revealed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over.